InnovaBuzz podcast, helping smart businesses be even more innovative.
Hi, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and welcome to episode number 57 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, designed to help smart businesses with an interest in innovation become even more innovative. In this episode, my guest is Carrie Dils of the OfficeHours.fm podcast. Of course, Carrie is well known in the WordPress space as a developer, a consultant, a prolific publisher, and an organizer of, as well as a frequent speaker at many WordCamps, and an author of WordPress courses on lynda.com. So she really is a wealth of knowledge on all things WordPress and Genesis. We talked a lot today in the interview about moving your business away from trading time for money, gaining leverage, and taking the knowledge that you have and making products, courses, and even a book from that. It's another highly informative interview, so without further ado, let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Carrie Dils. Hi, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really honoured to have with me today on this episode of the InnovaBuzz podcast from Fort Worth in Texas, Carrie Dils. Now, Carrie will be well known to everybody in the WordPress space. I certainly came across you very early in my WordPress days. You're a developer, consultant, prolific publisher, an organizer of and a frequent speaker at many WordCamps, and an author of WordPress courses on lynda.com, as well as host of the OfficeHours.fm podcast. And I believe soon to be published book author of Real World Freelancing, right?
Yes.
Which is due in early 2017. So, Carrie, welcome to the podcast. It's a great privilege to have you here.
Thanks, Jürgen. It's wonderful to be on.
Now, Kim Doyle suggested that we get you on the podcast, so big shout out to Kim, if you're listening.
She's wonderful.
Now, yeah, we had a lot of fun on the podcast episode with Kim. Now, before we start talking WordPress and podcasting and innovation and real-world freelancing and so on, let's find out about you a little bit more as a person. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I actually wanted to own a 50s-style diner restaurant. I don't know why, but it seemed appealing at the time. I've since had the opportunity to work in food service and have no desire to open a restaurant.
Yeah, that's a little bit like hard work, I would imagine. Although once I had Michael Gerber on the podcast last week, and once you get to the point of systemizing the whole lot, like McDonald's, which is the example he uses a lot, you might have come through the hardest part of it.
Oh, I'll leave it to McDonald's.
Okay. So what was your journey then to freelancing and working in the WordPress space?
I sort of, I guess, came in the back door. It was not what I was educated for, but something, I learned how to do HTML and so forth in college. And when I graduated and was looking for work, I came across some opportunities just for freelance graphic design and web development. And I took it up. That was almost like 18, 19 years ago. And then it stuck. I decided I liked it.
Okay, so you started building websites for other people in HTML and probably through Dreamweaver and all those things?
Shamefully, it was a lot of front page at the time.
Okay. All right. And when did you discover WordPress?
That was not until about 5 years ago. A colleague of mine was telling me about it, and I was absolutely amazed at the fact that it was a content management system out of the box. Having built those by hand previously, that's such an ordeal, and so I was like, oh my gosh, it's free and it just does this? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? So only 5 years. Wow. So you've come a long way in those 5 years.
I've been a busy bee.
Yeah, that's right. So I probably discovered WordPress before you did, but then when I saw some of your tutorials that you did in the early days, and I thought, wow, this is really helpful. So really appreciate that you're doing that for the community. And
Thank you.
obviously you've really ramped that up in a big way. So on Lynda, a lot of the tutorials are around Genesis, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Genesis theme framework. So how did you get into well, first of all, how did you get into building tutorials? Because I'm interested in, I'm looking forward to that freelancing book actually, but I'm interested in how you're making that transition, or maybe you have made that transition from selling time for money into having tutorials and things online that are generating revenue from the one piece of work on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and that is a desire to move away from trading time for dollars. And so looking at my skill set and figuring out what are some other income generators that I can add to the mix. As far as the tutorials came, I originally started that out not to make any money, just sort of blogging as I was learning. And I got a good response from the community on that. So I continued doing it. And then I kind of discovered through that, I guess, that I have somewhat of a knack for teaching and explaining things. And that sort of led into going more the formal course creation route. So I've been doing that, I guess, a couple of years, and it's sort of, Jürgen, it's the long game, if you will. It's not get rich overnight by any stretch, but very slowly it's enabled me to back off on direct client services and focus more on creating course content.
That's right. So in terms of the training programs that you put together, do you have a plan for the themes that you put together, or is there a structure to it, or do you focus on answering people's questions?
A little bit of both. So the courses I do through Lynda tend to be a combination of things that I've heard people asking about that they want to know how to do. And that's where some of those Genesis framework courses came out of. And then some others are courses that maybe are older courses in the Lynda library that need bringing up to date. So some things like CSS and frameworks and grids. And so some of those courses that were wildly out of date, I've gotten to bring those up and update them. So a little bit of both.
Okay, yeah. And do you have any plans to do your own online courses?
Why?
So I imagine that.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
No, it's still, I guess, in the congealing phase in my brain right now, but definitely something I want to do in 2017 is introduce some courses that are separate from Lynda, a little bit different type of content.
I look forward to hearing more about that. And with your podcast, officehours.fm, so that's been going for quite a while, hasn't it? I think you're well over the 100 episodes.
121 as of today.
Okay, I was going to say 130, but I guess I must be ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get into podcasting?
Podcasting was maybe, again, this was kind of, I entered through the back door. It started out, and the name is Office Hours, and that generated from, I wanted to virtually open up the doors of my office, if you will, and give people an hour of my time where I would answer whatever questions they had. And the thought process being that I would rather answer the same question and let a lot of people hear the answer than just answer that question via email and only one person gets the benefit of the answer. But
great philosophy.
I think it was Brennan Dunn from Double Your Freelancing that originally I heard that from, and that stuck with me. But what I realized after, not very many episodes of doing that, is that people really did not want to ask me technical questions on the air. What they were more interested in is just questions about business and questions about what tools you use in your development and wanting to hear from guests and people I brought on the show. So the show quickly changed to more of an interview format, and that's the same basic format I've kept, for over 100 episodes. That makes me tired to think about it. But you're already 50 plus episodes in, so you know how that goes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I have a lot of fun. I always and I was having this discussion with Kim actually. It's and she has the same thoughts about the podcasting. You get to have an hour's conversation with somebody that knows a hell of a lot more than you do about a particular area, and so you learn a lot. It's like a 1 hour masterclass.
Seriously, absolutely.
Yeah. So do you do interview formats? So I listened to probably the last half a dozen of yours, and they're all interviews.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for listening. First off, the previous seasons, I'm just starting out into season 3, which is a little bit of a format change. Previous episodes and seasons, I've done a live show, so people can submit questions via Twitter or Google Hangouts, whatever, while the show is live. And now I've moved just to a pre-recorded interview format. So the shows are a little bit more structured and flow a little bit better than they did before, or at least I hope they do. But yeah, keeping that interview format.
Okay, yeah. So, but you do answer questions as part of the podcast. So there's a segment there. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned seasons. So do you take a break in between seasons?
Oh, Jürgen, the best advice I got, this was from actually about this time last year from Matt Medeiros over at the Matt Report podcast. And we were chatting and I was just telling him I was kind of feeling burnt out and just tired. And he suggested the idea of seasons with the benefit being that there's an end in sight. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. A date that you're shooting towards. And once you reach that, you can take a break, however long you want, and then, start up the next season. Sure. And it also gives, a nice kind of container to the show if you want to do something like change up the format or, introduce some different styles. But, so this between season 2 and 3, I think I maybe had a 5 or 6 week break.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting because we've kind of done interviews and then we've struggled to schedule things to keep going for the time, and so we had a break, an enforced break almost. But now I'm changing mine up a little bit to do solo episodes in between, just to talk about particular themes. So I'm planning out what sort of themes to look at that, and we've got heaps of guests lined up at the moment, so we're probably booked out for posting until well into January.
That's fantastic.
It is, and I enjoy doing it. It's good fun. So, but you're right. There are times when you probably think about changing the theme up or modifying the format somewhat. So that's a good way to do it. So did you do anything specifically to grow and promote the podcast, or did that just happen organically?
So far, it's just been organic growth, and it's not huge. I think it's a very loyal group of listeners. I have a great group of listeners that regularly tune in, but it's not a massive. I'm not a busting out iTunes stats or anything like that. So yeah, just to date, it's been pretty much word of mouth. And then of course, whatever guests I have on the show, inviting them to share with their networks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And in terms of, the themes and the guests, do you have a plan in terms of, so is there a theme for the season and then a plan for the content in each podcast around that?
So the theme for the season is more the business aspect of WordPress. So while there are some conversations that are technical, it's really more about how people who are either offering WordPress products or services are conducting their business, growing their business, the things that they're doing to be successful and the things that they found don't work very well. In the hopes that I think a lot of the folks that tune into my show are freelancers or aspiring to be self-employed. And so I'm hoping that sort of the touching on the business aspect of WordPress can help them in their endeavors.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good pursuit because, you certainly do a lot of technical coaching or technical training through the lynda.com and through your YouTube videos and then your blog posts. So I think the podcast is probably better suited to what you've described there, the coaching around or the ideas around how people run their business in various areas. And that's always a challenge for freelancers, particularly when they first start out.
Yeah, and like you said, I get to sit down and basically have a little mini mastermind session with some really smart people.
Yeah, that's right. That's cool, isn't it? I'm interested in how because we talked earlier about trading time for money, and I know you've got a theme that you've developed that you've put out there for sale. So essentially productizing one of your services and the book to come next year. So is that a strategy now that you're looking at developing products that have a life beyond the time you've invested in them?
Absolutely. And again, it's sort of a long-term strategy. But, I've done the theme and really I'm still kind of pondering whether or not that's an avenue I want to continue to, put products in that theme space just because there's already so much in the market.
That's right. Yeah.
But definitely on the course and content creation side, I would love to be able to put more of that out into the market and maybe find some more creative ways to monetize the content that I already have out there. I've managed to over the years build a strong following, but I've never really monetized that following. That sounds kind of evil, like I want to, reach into their wallets, which is not the case. But I think I'm just sort of at a crossroads where I've already laid the foundation of building trust with an audience and consistency in content. And this next year will be about figuring out some smart ways to earn a living from it.
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on a number of interesting points there because you've clearly built a whole lot of knowledge around the services business that you have, developing websites for people, and then you've shared that knowledge essentially at no cost through various avenues. And so at some point, your drive, your motivation, your energy, or the time you have also to continue sharing like that has to step aside for paying the bills, right? So you've got to pay the bills. So you take a break from that and go back to things that earn money. So, and also the other side of that is I think that people consume a lot of this stuff, but they don't necessarily take action. They're more motivated to take action on it and get more value from it if they've actually paid for it. So in some ways, you're doing people a service by charging for it.
You know what? That's a really interesting point. I hadn't considered it that way, but I guess maybe it's like, I don't know, going to the gym. You're more likely to go if you're paying for a membership or whatnot.
Yeah, that's right. There's an element of that as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops because there certainly is a lot of great content there. I mean, I kept digging and there was more and more when I was doing my research. I thought, I haven't seen this one. I must mark this one to study that some more.
Well, thank you.
So there's a lot there. So you've been very prolific, as I said at the beginning. And I was interested. You gave a talk at, I think it was WordCamp Houston recently, and I had a quick look through the slides, and I think the theme was about choice. And I'm not quite sure because I just saw the slides, but
Yeah.
I saw one that I thought, this is really good. So you said something like every time you give a user an option, you're asking them to make a decision, and you're actually making them frustrated because the decision, if they don't understand what the choices are, the decision is actually too difficult for them. And I thought that was really neat. And I think there's a bit of a philosophy behind that, which could come back to some of your training, because you've got so much material out there and people sort of look at various things and say, well, which one do I do, or what structure do I follow? So maybe it's about leading them through from, a start point to a big milestone or something like that.
Yeah, I think, you just managed to sum up the talk in 30 seconds very, very nicely. And I think you're right. I just recently went through a site redesign, and part of what I was hoping to accomplish with that is to better funnel people to the content that they wanted, because in the previous iteration of my site, it's, like you said, you can just get lost in there, and it's hard to know there's no clearly defined learning path. So I'm trying. I don't know. It'll be an ongoing experiment, but you're absolutely right. It's there's a psychology behind it that the fewer the choices, the easier it is to make a decision. It's easier to choose between A and B than it is for choosing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. Yeah,
that's right. And there's probably less regret at the end. So it's a bit of a case of the Henry Ford's philosophy of you can have any color as long as it's black.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So what are the biggest challenges that you face in your business right now, and how you're tackling those?
Oh, I think probably one of the biggest challenges is just energy, especially getting around to this time of year, end of year. I've just been hitting it hard and keeping a very full schedule, and it's kind of a creativity crusher at some point. And so my goal for myself, like even this Thanksgiving weekend that we just had here in the US, taking a full 4-day break, the long weekend, not checking my email, not blogging, really not doing anything except laying on the couch and eating. But I find that those sorts of, those are refreshing things to me. And I don't make a whole lot of space in my life to do that. So, that would be, I guess, the challenge. And what I'm trying to do about it is, free up some space for, creativity. 'Cause content creation or writing blog posts, or, at the root of it all is the ability to, think creatively about a problem. And, that's been in short supply for me lately. Don't tell anybody.
Okay. So what do you do to switch off and free your mind like you've described? Thanksgiving and eating all the time.
Laying on the couch. Yeah. I love getting out and just taking long walks, or maybe go for a bike ride. Those sorts of things are we're basically where you can just let your mind wander or be mindless and just enjoy the great outdoors. I find that very refreshing.
That's great. So I'm a keen bike rider too, and that's a time, particularly if I'm on my own on the bike, that's a time when often I start to think of different ways of doing something, and things will just come to me.
Isn't it funny how that works?
Yeah.
You stop trying to think about something, and then you find solutions.
Sort of a light bulb moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think it's, as you say, sort of just being clear of all the ongoing go pressure or whatever it is, and then your mind's focused on something else.
Exactly.
So what are some of the most innovative things that you do in your business?
Oh, I don't know if I'm innovative or not. But I think this may sound kind of weird, but talking to a lot of people and keeping an ear to the ground about what other people are doing and what other people are finding interesting. And I get so stuck in my own, routines and ways of doing things that hearing how other people operate and hearing what other people are interested in helps me think more creatively about my own business. I don't know if that falls under the innovation category or not officially.
Yeah, well, I mean, my definition of innovation is essentially an improvement that adds value. So, I mean, and it doesn't have to be a transformation. It can be incremental. So I think that falls under the innovation mindset. And, I had a lovely discussion with Michael Gerber last week, and he pretty well nailed down the difference between innovation and creativity on that podcast, which was quite enlightening, actually. I'd never heard somebody espouse it that way, but he basically said innovation is continuous improvement and creativity is actually taking something beyond where it is today, and it's actually going totally into the unknown because it's building something that you may not even know what it looks like. You may not know what the end result is, but and when you get there, you may not even know that you've got it, but it's developing something completely new. So he kind of separated innovation and creativity, which I found fascinating.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it in those terms either. I'm a big fan of Michael Gerber's. I'll have to go back and catch that episode.
Yeah. All right. So I guess if you had a magic wand and could fix one thing in your business, what would that thing be?
Oh, the magic wand. I wish my blog posts would write themselves.
Okay.
But seriously, I would love for, those kind of uninterrupted blocks of time to coincide with creativity for writing more. It seems that that's a lot of other things you can shove into a 30-minute time slot or, little tasks here and there. But writing for me takes, a single blog post can take up to 6 or 8 hours. I'm a very slow writer. I would wave my magic wand over my schedule to give me uninterrupted time blocks with creativity.
That's interesting. So do you kind of write a bunch of blog posts at once, or do you kind of think of the one topic and you work on that one until it's done?
So as soon as I have an idea for one, I'll go and just create. I'll give it a title and maybe an intro paragraph of just kind of blurt out whatever the main thought is, and I'll leave it in draft mode. And then other times, if I'm needing an idea for something to write, I'll go back through and look at my drafts and see what I feel inspired to actually flesh out into a post. But generally speaking, it starts with an idea, and then I'll do the full post versus bouncing around to different ones.
It's fascinating. Yeah, I was chatting to Kim when we were doing our podcast interview, and she's doing this daily email thing now where she writes an email every day, basically what her thoughts are right now, what she's working on, what her challenges are. So she's very transparent in everything. And the philosophy behind that, of course, is the more you practice writing, the better you get at it, just like everything.
Yeah, so true. I get those daily emails. I'm like, good grief, how does she... How is she writing that much every day?
Yeah, I can't keep up with reading them. Like I sort of save them to read, and then all of a sudden I've got about 5 or 6 of them. I think, oh gosh, I've got to read. I've got to catch up with Kim. All right, so tell us a little bit about the book that's coming out next year, Real World Freelancing.
Yeah, so the book is basically, if I could have told my freshly graduated from college self what to do and what not to do to be successful in freelancing, in tech freelancing specifically, it would be this book. So that's sort of the vision for it. And my co-author, Diane Kinney, who she's working on it with me, and she has extensive experience in the freelance world. And but she's done a lot more agency type work versus me. I've done a lot more solo work. So together we kind of bring, hopefully, what's a well-rounded look at freelancing, and not specifically to WordPress. I think the book could be for anyone who is self-employed. So everything, just practical stuff like, setting up a legal structure for your business, how to, create a budget, and don't forget to set aside money for taxes, et cetera, et cetera. And how to, things like pricing and handling clients, and, some of those soft skills that are required to really help you succeed in business. So that's in a nutshell what the book is. And again, just hoping that maybe if somebody comes along that was in my shoes previously, in my older shoes, that sounds weird, my older shoes, but that this book will be able to help them. And I know a lot of us, or at least myself, I tend to always learn the lessons the hard way, even when I have help. But hoping that maybe we can save people a hard lesson or two.
Yeah, that's a great mission. And, I think you said that this book is the book we wish we had when we'd started. So, pretty clear what the target audience there is. And I hope that those considering starting out afresh, or even those that are looking to improve their business, might take a look at that one, and we'll post a link to that in the show notes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. This has been great, Carrie. I think we might move on to the Buzz, which is our innovation round, and it's designed to help our audience, who are primarily innovators and leaders in their field. So we get some tips from your experience and hopefully help them do something awesome as a result.
Fantastic.
So we've got 5 questions, and hopefully we'll get some really insightful answers. So first one, what's the number one thing anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Oh, man. I'm going to go with kind of what I said earlier, which is step away from your work and give yourself a little mental space.
Yep, that's great. I love that. What's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas and new products?
That would be conversations with other really smart people. So at WordCamps, you have something kind of infamously called the hallway track, which is where you don't attend a session. Instead, you hang out in the hallway and chat with with other people. And I've found I've developed some really fantastic friendships over the years of going to WordCamps. And when you're honest about where you are in your business, what you're struggling with, and what it is you're looking to do, those conversations with other folks, they turn, not articulating it very well, but they can take something that you've been struggling with and shed a new light on it. And all of a sudden you've got an idea for a book or an idea for a course. It's funny how those things evolve.
That's right. Yeah. So it's kind of getting other people to help with your challenges, but at the same time, contribute ideas, and perhaps you helping with their challenges opens up those opportunities I could write a book on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. What's your favorite system or tool for improving productivity and allowing you to be more innovative?
I really like, it's called the Pomodoro technique. and there's a website called Tomato Timer. But the basic premise is that you work for 20 minutes, kind of heads down, no distraction, and then take, a 5-minute break, rinse and repeat. So if, say you're opening your inbox and you're saying, all right, I'm going to be in my inbox for 20 minutes. If it doesn't get done in 20 minutes, then, it's
done for today.
It's done. And I found that, when you kind of box your time like that and put a hard end on it, it makes it really hard to wander because you're focused on getting it done in that little segment of time. I found that really helpful.
That's great advice. Now, how do you actually discipline yourself as part of that to focus on exactly what it is you've decided you're going to work on for that 20-minute period? But then, because I do this a lot, but my challenge then is I get to the 20-minute mark and I say, I'll just finish this one extra little bit. And then before I know it, it's an hour and a half's gone, and I haven't moved on. Yeah,
I think so. It's got the Tomato Timer website has a buzzer on it, and make sure your volume is turned up really loud, and it'll irritate you so badly you have to stop.
Yeah, I actually use the Google timer. I don't know if you know the Google timer. If you just type into a browser 20-minute timer, it'll start 20-minute timer, and it actually beeps until you go in and stop it. So it interrupts you.
That works.
But I did play with the tomato timer. It's a while ago, so I can't remember all the details. But I think you can go back and reset it or start it again or something, which is what I tended to do. I thought, I'll just go another session and finish this off.
I've done the same thing as well, but I think it, realizing in the long run, it's counterproductive to do that too many times in a row.
Yeah. Okay. So get a bit of discipline as well. So the Pomodoro technique, so we'll link to that in the show notes, because I think that is a really good technique. I enjoy doing that, and I think it does make you a lot more productive. All right. So what's the best way to keep a project or client on track?
Good communication up front about what their milestones are for any given project, so that they get lead time, they know what's coming up. And I've also found that nothing motivates a client quite like sending them an invoice. They by the time they pay you, they want certain milestones or deliverables met. So that's a good way to keep them on track.
Great advice. Yeah. All right. What's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Differentiate yourself. I've been having it seems a recurring conversation with people lately about the difference between being a vendor that your customers use to either build their website or do their SEO or whatever, a vendor versus a partner. A vendor is a cost, it's an expense, whereas a partner is someone who really comes alongside a customer and wants their customer to succeed. So vested in the success of the people they work with. And I think that, when you're working in a space like WordPress, where it's really just become kind of a commodity, and you can find people who can build websites for $10. What makes me think that I can charge 100 times that or 1,000 times that? And I really think it's that piece of being able to partner, come alongside your client, and help them reach their success versus just taking whatever it is they tell you to do and going and doing it.
That's great advice. I love that because I certainly value the people that help my business in terms of being that partner and vested in my success as well. And a lot of times it works both ways. So, great advice. So, rather than have somebody, okay, here's your website, good luck with that. It's actually working with them to make sure it's successful in the long run and it's part of their business success.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about your future. So what are some of the other things you've got on the longer term horizon?
I hate to sound like a broken record, but 2017 really is going to be about stepping away, probably making an almost complete step away from direct client services to focus my energies on coaching and creating training materials for either tech or freelance based materials. Yeah, and I'll since you mentioned cycling earlier and a common interest there, I'll tell you that in April, I think it's either late March or early April, I'm hoping to do my first duathlon. Wow. I got some training to do.
So is that cycling and running?
Cycling and running. So it's you run and cycle and then run again.
Yeah. That's great. So you got to need to train for that. That's a pretty tough combination. Not quite as bad as the triathlon, but certainly tougher than just going for a little ride.
Yeah, I'll dip my toes, but into the duathlon, and then who knows, maybe eventually a triathlon. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all the best for that and for the training there. So, where do you see the WordPress and the industry headed?
Oh, I wish I had the crystal ball, because boy, I could make a lot of money if I had that crystal ball. Yeah. But I think we'll continue to see WordPress mature. It's already matured greatly in the past 5 years, both as a software platform, but also the business ecosystem around it. So I'd like to see, I don't know if this sounds kind of bad or not, but basically get rid of the middle class when it comes to web services. So you've got people that are serving the low end of the market and people that are serving that higher end of the market. And maybe I stated it wrong, because I guess there's always going to be someone in the middle of the market too. But I guess a greater differentiation between the person who will build your website for $10 and the agency that will truly partner with your business. And I think a large part of that, other than, of course, is the service provider being able to differentiate ourselves, but a lot of that too is, I think, market education and how people perceive WordPress and the value of what it can do in their business. I don't know if any of that made sense, but it was somewhere in my crystal ball.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating that WordPress is, I think it's about 22 or 23% of websites on the internet now are WordPress. If I remember the number rightly, I haven't read anything for a little while, so it may be higher than that.
I think we're up to 26 now.
Okay, yeah. Which, definitely it's the biggest platform. So when you hear people outline problems with WordPress, you've got to put it into perspective and say, well, yes, more WordPress websites have problems because there are more WordPress websites. So all websites have problems, and the ones that are around more, you can bend that statistic to any way you like. But looking back, when I first discovered WordPress, it was pretty much a blogging platform. And I decided, hey, you can actually hack this a little bit with some plugins and with some customization to turn it into a CMS, which I did. And that was where I started off. And then all of a sudden, I think it was version 2.4 or 5. All of a sudden, I realized I could ditch a lot of my customizations, because now they've actually turned WordPress core. It actually turned it into a proper CMS. And that was a big transformation. And I just wonder whether, there's another big transformation like that somewhere down the line, whether it's sort of more mobile app type focus or what? I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if WordPress continues as one kind of giant platform, or if it gets sort of forked off to be more specialized by industry or requirement. So maybe a leaner core and then more, modular based on what you're doing with WordPress. But, who knows?
Yeah. All right. So what's the number one piece of advice you'd give to any business owner in this space who wants to be a leader in innovation?
I would say be a doer and not a talker. Talking's okay too, but there's a lot of people who all they ever do is talk. And I think the people that are finding success are the ones that, they've got their heads down and they're doing the work. Yeah,
that's great advice. And you're certainly one of the doers because of all the content and things that you've produced and shared, as well as, the work you've done to actually build that experience and learn those things. So thanks, Carrie. This has been really great. Where can people reach out and say thank you?
Thank you, first of all, for having me on. A pleasure chatting with you. I'm on Twitter at @CDils, and that's Dils with just one L. And that's probably where I hang out the most. I'm also on Facebook as Carrie Dils, and then there's, of course, my website, carriedils.com. But yeah, drop me a line, any of those places.
All right, and we'll have links to those in the show notes as well. And finally, who would you like me to interview on a future InnovaBuzz podcast and why?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me this question, Jürgen. So my answer may sound a little bit biased, but I would love for you to interview Diane Kinney, my colleague that's working with me on the book. She's got just years of really interesting experience, especially in that client management and project management arena. And I think she would have a lot of value to share with your audience.
Excellent. Thank you. So, Diane, we're coming to get you courtesy of Carrie Dils. So thanks, Carrie. Thanks for sharing your time and your insights with us so generously today on the InnovaBuzz podcast. I've really enjoyed this. And as I said earlier, these things tend to be a masterclass for me, and hopefully they turn out to be the same for my audience as well. So I wish you all the best for the future of your business, for the book launch, the freelancing, scroll down the page here, Real World Freelancing, and also for the OfficeHours.fm podcast and all the other initiatives that you've got underway, and also for the cycling duathlon, of course.
Wow. So
let's keep in touch.
I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to chatting more in the future.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed meeting Carrie as much as I enjoyed this interview, and of course also learned things by listening. All the show notes for this episode will be at innovabiz.com.au/Carrie Dils. That is CARRIEDILS. All lowercase, all one word, you know the drill by now. innovabiz.com.au/Carrie Dils. For all of the links and everything we spoke about in this episode. Now, Carrie suggested I interview Diane Kinney, owner of the Versatility Group and co-author with Carrie of Real World Freelancing, on a future InnovaBuzz podcast. So, Diane, keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from me to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Carrie Dils. I'm really grateful that you've listened to this point, and I trust that you get great value from these episodes. Pop on over to iTunes or Stitcher or Pocket Casts and subscribe so you'll never miss a future episode. While you're there, it will be great if you leave us a review, because reviews help us get found, but also they tell us what we can improve and what you'd like us to cover if you write that in your review. If there's something you'd like us to cover on future podcasts or questions you want answered, please tell us. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Remember, if you don't innovate, you stagnate. So think big, be adventurous, and keep innovating.